on CyberCrime.
They believe that they're child pornography images, but they're really not.
It's one man's crusade against child porn on the net. Instead of getting pornographic pictures, would-be kitty porn collectors may end up on this wall of shame.
Plus, how the high-tech criminal world is tapping into your private life. The U.S. Secret Service turns us on to cloning cell phone numbers and eavesdropping on conversations. And in news, charges are dropped against the prime suspect in the love bug case.
CyberCrime is brought to you by Symantec.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of CyberCrime.
This week, we travel to San Diego, California to meet a man who's waging a personal war against online child porn.
And I went to New York City to meet with the Secret Service and take a look at some of the latest confiscated eavesdropping devices.
And we'll get to that story a little later on. But first, one of the darker sides of the internet, child pornography. It's running rampant in cyberspace with file-sharing systems like Gnutella and Freenet, making it easier and safer to trade child porn. But thanks to one man in San Diego, California, would-be kitty porn collectors may be getting more than they bargained for. This week's top story introduces you to the internet's wall of shame.
A child is experiencing a lot of pain when they're engaging in child porn. Every time someone sees that child's picture, that child is re-victimized.
Georgia Hildeman is the executive director of the Vanished Children's Alliance.
This is our child therapy room.
Her organization provides therapy for children who have been victims of abduction and sexual exploitation.
You see yourself as someone, viewed in a sexual manner by other people, that you become an object. You no longer begin to feel like a person.
Georgia fears the child pornography trade is thriving on the internet.
We're forgetting that this could be our child, this could be our niece, our nephew, or this could be our neighbor next door.
George Gonzalez believes the online world is not unlike his San Diego neighborhood. He says people need to get involved in protecting their communities.
Communities do need to police themselves because other people are going to find ways around police, ways around the courts.
George runs ZeroPay.com, a site that links to several file-sharing systems, including Gnutella.
They can trade images, movies, music.
But they can also trade child pornography.
Anywhere from European children running naked down the beach. It also goes as far as little children having sex with adults.
That's something George is unwilling to tolerate.
Someone right here is downloading the 12-year-old porn star 2.
This Gnutella user thinks he's downloading child pornography. He's actually hit on one of the bogus kitty porn files George posts on the network.
They believe that they're child pornography images, but they're really not. In a couple seconds, they'll see the skull and crossbones sign.
Instead of porn, the user gets this warning.
They'll say you've been busted and we have your IP.
And with that IP number, the user's true identity could be revealed. The would-be kitty porn collector's IP is added to this list posted on the ZeroPay website. George calls it the wall of shame.
What I'm basically doing is protecting my neighborhood, my small little neighborhood on Nutella, from child pornography.
George says that if users want to keep their networks free, they need to use them responsibly.
These networks were formed to be private and to not let Uncle Sam and the government be involved. And that's really the only way these networks are going to survive, is if people moderate themselves.
When the authorities do get involved, the criminal penalties for trading child porn can be steep, up to 15 years in federal prison. But due to the vast and anonymous nature of the internet, only a small percentage of online traders will ever end up behind bars.
I don't think, based again on my experience, that law enforcement in itself is ever going to be able to stop the trading of child pornography.
Agent Kevin Johnson is part of the FBI's Internet Crimes Unit. He investigates cases involving pedophiles and child pornography online.
Law enforcement really is only one part of the solution. We need to work with people, the companies, and other folks on the Internet to work with us in an attempt to at least control the problem.
Faced with the challenges of policing the Internet, Agent Johnson believes George's Wall of Shame can make a difference. But, he adds, the role of law enforcement will always be key in fighting online child porn.
There are a number of individuals out there who will not be deterred, regardless of what penalties might attach or any amount of policing that folks attempt to do themselves. These are the folks that we are trying to target in the course of our investigation.
George says the number of hits on his book porn files has decreased. He hopes that's because some of the kiddie porn collectors have left the neighborhood.
I know that the problem can't be stopped completely. Nobody can do that, not even the government. If I've made a 1% difference, I'm happy with that.
It does appear George's Wall of Shame is making a difference. When it first went online back in April, it received about 3,000 downloads a day. Now George says that number has dropped to around 300. And as far as turning the information collected on the Wall of Shame over to the police, it's important to remember that although downloading child porn is illegal, technically users downloading the bogus files have not broken the law. The files don't contain actual porn. They are only labeled to look like it. And while few would argue the need to stop the proliferation of child porn on the net, some might not agree with George's approach. Tell us what you think in this week's CyberCrime Weekly poll. If you think the Wall of Shame is a good way to deter would-be kiddie porn collectors, select A. Perhaps you think people's activity online should be free from third-party interference. That's B. Or if you feel stopping online child porn is a job strictly for law enforcement, pick C. Head to our website at cybercrime.com and cast your vote. And also on our website, we have a cool tool that scans your computer to make sure it's not infected with any of the top 5 computer viruses. And now you can also use the scanner to find out if your computer is susceptible to unauthorized network communications. Thousands have already tried the scanner, and we're so glad it's there to help you. So let us know what you think of it. Email us at scannerfeedback@zdtv.com. Still ahead on Cybercrime, MP3.com pays big bucks to settle a lawsuit. Details in our news and review next.
In cybercrime news this week, the Justice Department has postponed its selection of a university to analyze the FBI's controversial carnivore email surveillance system. But they did release the guidelines for that review. The DOJ emphasized it wanted the review to remain technical in nature and independent of political influence. Carnivore, which scans and captures Internet packets as they pass through an ISP's network, has received criticism from members of Congress.
We need to update the laws to provide more of a level playing field and the same protection for Internet users as we have for telephone users. But we want to make it level, and so that it's not easier for law enforcement to snoop on one side versus snooping on the telephone side.
The DOJ expects to select a university by September 15th. All charges have been dropped against the man accused of unleashing the love bug virus. 24-year-old Onel de Guzman of the Philippines was the prime suspect. Since dropping the charges, de Guzman says that even though he's been overwhelmed with job offers, he will complete his studies first. Authorities say charges against de Guzman were dropped because the newly adopted anti-hacking laws were not in place at the time. Pikachu may be the most popular video game figure ever. But watch out if you get an email attachment titled Pikachu is your friend. A new computer worm named for the cuddly Pokemon character is capable of devastating your hard drive. We have more details at cybercrime.com. MP3.com has settled a copyright infringement suit brought by Sony Music. Reuters reports MP3.com will pay roughly $20 million in damages. The company will also pay fees each time a Sony CD is registered by a user and each time a user accesses one of the songs. The site has similar agreements with EMI, Warner, and BMG and is negotiating with Universal Music Group. And now, America Online may be drawn into the music file swapping controversy. MP3board.com is being sued by the recording industry for allegedly building its business on linking to the Nutella file sharing network. Now MP3board.com says if a court concludes searches of Nutella file sharing network are illegal, then AOL bears some of the liability since the programmers who created it were on AOL's payroll. The U.S. Customs Service says it has a way to determine the naked truth about drug smugglers. The Body Search 2000 can see everything on your body, from outline of your navel to your body hair and much more. Privacy groups say the machine is too intrusive, but custom agents say it is necessary. Now the scanner is being used in 10 airports. Coming up on CyberCrime.
It's an illegal scanner or intercept of cellular conversations. It holds 99 stolen numbers.
It's called a cell tracker, and it's one of the most dangerous eavesdropping devices smuggled into the country. I'll be back with the Secret Service when we return. Welcome back. When was the last time you heard a strange click on your cell phone and you wondered whether someone was eavesdropping? Or you saw a number on your phone bill that you didn't recognize and you wondered whether someone had cloned your phone? Well, the devices are out there. They're contraband, and it is illegal to possess them, illegal to use them, and it's illegal to use the information gained from using them. But just to keep a handle on exactly what's out there, we conducted our own investigation.
Got somebody trying to pay for an unsuspecting person, probably a traveler or a salesman, on a payphone at one of the major airports in the United States, and this was part of one of the largest telecommunications scams in the United States.
It's one of the simpler eavesdropping devices Robert Weaver's confiscated over the years. Weaver is the assistant to the special agent in charge at the U.S. Secret Service in New York, and also heads the New York Electronic Crime Task Force.
The equipment that you see behind you is confiscated equipment representing 5 years of work and over 800 cases that are arrest and convictions. Not all of them are as important as the others, but each one of them we progressed with, we learned from.
And so do others. Since 1995, Weaver's crew has reviewed this contraband with thousands of members of law enforcement and the private sector.
We thought that education and training was important, and maybe even more important than coming into a situation after the fact when it could have been prevented had we given forewarning.
This is called a magic box, and these are called copycats. They all do the same thing: cell phone cloning. Plug them into a cell phone, and suddenly you can reprogram the phone to accept a stolen phone number. And if that doesn't do the trick...
So what the bad guys do is they open it up on the back, they reprogram the chips on the inside, and they make this phone do something illegal and accept stolen information and stolen property.
Weaver's collection also includes telephone plugs, pens, power strips, all used to surreptitiously eavesdrop on a conversation. This plug used to eavesdrop was the tip of the iceberg in the Bernhard Bowitz case. It was a first for Assistant U.S. Attorney Eric Friedberg.
We started to focus on an individual named Bernhard Bowitz that was marketing over the internet, which was somewhat unusual at that time back in 1995, started marketing an illegal device that was capable of cloning cellular phones and also illegal wiretapping.
The cell tracker could store 99 stolen phone numbers, which is the key to fraud.
If I spread my usage over 100 stolen telephone numbers, so there's only 10 stolen calls on each number, the computer, it flies under the radar of the programs that the telephone company's running.
But beyond cloning phones, this device could be used to monitor cell phone conversations. And
The cell tracker phone in the Bowitz case could be used to bug a room. Someone would dial this phone number plus a special code. The phone would never actually ring, so you don't even know that someone's dialed that phone number, but now the phone is on, and it's monitoring the room's conversation. But the cell tracker phone didn't actually steal the phone numbers.
In this case, the defendant was using another peripheral device called an ESN reader.
Here's how an ESN reader works. A cell phone has an ESN, which is the phone's unique electronic serial number, and an MIN, the mobile identification number, in other words, your phone number. Normally, both numbers are authenticated at a cell tower, but an ESN reader can enable somebody to intercept and steal those pairs. It's known as a man-in-the-middle attack. Then, those pairs are uploaded to a cloned cell phone.
If I took an ESN reader, such as the one that this defendant sold, and put it on this table, by the end of this interview, that ESN reader would probably have captured 1,000 stolen numbers.
The one sold by Bowitz was hidden in this leather-bound planner.
And it came with pamphlets about how you program them.
But capturing Bowitz back in 1995 called for groundbreaking investigative techniques, including the very first email wiretap.
The internet service provider that we were dealing with had no precedent for technically being able to do this, and they actually had to write software that would create what we sort of called a BCC box, like a blind carbon copy, so that anything that was in or out of the defendant's email box would be blind carbon copied to our email box that we then could access.
We did a email wiretap, court-ordered, for 85 days and intercepted over 1,300 intercepts, 24 hours a day, domestically, internationally, around the world.
And it proved to be very fruitful because we could see through that who else the defendant was dealing with in terms of both the distribution of the phones stateside and the manufacture of the phones overseas.
And now, even though the case is 5 years old, the cell tracker phone and the ESN reader remain two of the most dangerous eavesdropping devices smuggled into the country.
Alex, it's really scary to be thinking that somebody is out there selling these devices that will let other people listen in on your private conversations. Now, we saw in this story that Bowitz, he got busted for the crime. What's he looking at?
Right. Well, he pleaded guilty to conspiracy involving the manufacture and distribution of illegal electronic surveillance equipment. And if you add that with the money laundering, he gets a total of about 5 years in federal prison.
Now, you spoke with his wife, and she has a different story.
That's right. Rachel says she maintains his innocence. She said he got a bad deal. He was forced into the deal, and that, in fact, many of the facts were fabricated.
And that he's innocent.
That's right. Stands by her man.
Well, I have a question that perhaps some of our viewers have as well, and it involves the difference between an analog phone and a digital phone, because they're both out there now. And I'm wondering if one is more susceptible or if one is actually safer.
Right, and I think that is a good consideration. When you're thinking about this particular case, this story that we just covered, those were all analog. But there are some considerations. There are devices out there that will intercept digital signals. But
so a digital is not necessarily safer.
Right, not necessarily safer. And there's really no way to get around the analog because everything's dual now, analog and digital. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind. But at least knowing that everything's out there is very important.
That's definitely helpful. And we also have some tips on our website. That's at cybercrime.com. And don't go anywhere. Still ahead on Cybercrime.
You can't lock down or secure a computer system without taking into account that it's part of a much bigger system.
It's a chaos theory you won't want to miss. Security consultant Richard Thiem tells us why there's no clear-cut way to secure the net. Welcome back. When I say the phrase the Internet, do you think of computers or communities? Security consultant Richard Thiem says the distinction between the two is important because the net is really made up of people. So when dealing with security online, it's vital to keep that in mind. Here's Richard in this week's Chaos Theory.
One of the emergent realities in computer security that seems to be coming to everybody's mind just about the same time, because we're discovering it for the same reasons, is that you can't lock down or secure a computer system without taking into account that it's part of a much bigger system. A computer network is like the inner ring of interlocking rings of networks, at the top of which or outside of which is the human network. And if we apply the same stringent criteria to the human network that we're now trying to apply to the computer network, it will mean we're entering a world of ubiquitous surveillance, constant data mining, and searching always the patterns of people's behaviors, conversations, and activities for anomalies or things that don't belong so we can flag them and review those behaviors. This means that we're going to have to confront the fact that we're operating according to two different models. One is the model of rigorous security in the computer world. The other is the model of obsolete trust, which presumes that you know that the person you're talking to belongs to the people you think they belong to and is owned by the people who think they own them.
Alex, my takeaway from Richard's chaos theory is that you can't approach security just looking at it from a technological point of view. You've got to think about the people that are behind the Internet, because it's really, like Richard says, it's a network of people,
right,
not just a computer monitor.
Yeah, I think it hit home to me the fact that there is a human factor. At some point, you're just going to have to take your chances. It is worth noting, though, that recent report that came out from the Computer Security Institute said that 71% of the respondents had insider threats, so people are picking the wrong people. I don't know.
It's the issue of trust, and Richard talks about that as well, that you really need to be able to ultimately trust the people that you're dealing with.
And you have to take your chances sometimes. You got to take your chances. That's it for the show. Thanks for being here with us.
And make sure you're here with us next week. We're already working on this story.
This one, to me, in all honesty, is probably the most important innovation in law enforcement communications situation.
The innovation is called ATIP, Alarm-Triggered Internet Protocol. It turns an ordinary security camera into a real-time live video internet feed sent directly to 911 centers and squad cars. See how this new tool of the trade can help law enforcement fight crime as we take you inside the first place in the country to have ATIP installed. We hope you'll join us for that story and much more next week. Until then, talk to us. Our email is cybercrime@zdtv.com.
And you can also chat with us. The time to chat with our staff is Monday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget to check out our website. The address is
cybercrime.com.
We'll see
you next week.